In this video, we continue to examine the COSO ERM framework by considering its risk management process. Here is a visual summary of the COSO ERM risk management process. It comprises 8 elements. Key activities or concepts for each element can be found in the fine print. Pause the video to read them. In the remainder of the video, we will consider important ideas from each of the elements. We begin with the internal environment. Every organization should develop its risk management philosophy. An enterprise risk management philosophy expresses the entity's beliefs about risk and how it chooses to conduct its activities and deal with risks. It reflects the value the entity seeks from enterprise risk management and influences how enterprise risk management components are applied. The risk management philosophy is reflected in policy statements and other communications, as well as everyday actions. Risk appetite can be a confusing idea, so it's the focus of its own mod later in the course. Risk appetite is the amount of risk an entity is willing to accept in pursuit of value. Risk appetite is considered in strategy setting, where the desired return from a strategy should be aligned with the entity's risk appetite. Different strategies will expose the entity to different risks. Risk culture is the set of shared attitudes, values, and practices that characterize how an organization considers risk in its day-to-day activities. Here's an example. A gas pipeline company sought a risk culture where all personnel explicitly considered risk in their day-to-day activities. In support, one step management took was to add a series of risk-focused questions to all employee identification cards. These questions guided employee decision-making. What are the risks? Who else will be affected by this event? Who else needs to be informed? The questions encouraged employees to consider the impact of potential events on other units and on the organization as a whole. COSO provides a nice summary of the most important parts of this first element. Pause the video and have a look. We continue with the objective setting element of the enterprise risk management process. We begin with strategic objectives. These are high-level goals aligned with and supporting the entity's mission and vision. Next, we consider objectives that are related to the strategic objectives. First, there are operations objectives. These pertain to the effectiveness and efficiency of the entity's operations, including performance and profitability goals and safeguarding resources against loss. They vary based on management's choices about structure and performance. Next, we find the reporting objectives. These pertain to the reliability of reporting. They include internal and external reporting and may involve financial or non-financial information. COSO finishes with compliance objectives. These pertain to adherence to relevant laws and regulations. They are dependent on external factors, such as environmental regulation, and they tend to be similar across all entities in some cases, and across an industry in others. Risk tolerance is a topic we will explore more when we get to the risk appetite module. Risk tolerances are the acceptable levels of variation relative to the achievement of objectives. Here's an example to illustrate the idea. The objective for a company is on-time delivery at 98%. The tolerance provides an acceptable level of variation in the range of 97 to 100% of the time. A second objective targets training with a pass rate of 90%. The tolerance is a pass rate of at least 75%. The objective is expecting staff to respond to all consumer complaints within 24 hours. The tolerance accepts that up to 25% of these complaints may receive a response within 24 to 36 hours. COSO provides a summary of the most important parts of this second element. Pause the video and have a look. Event identification is the next element of the risk management process. Events are first separated according to the external and internal environments. Economic and business. Related events might include emerging competition and market movements. Management considers both macroeconomic conditions, such as general price movements, and microeconomic conditions, such as competition in terms of emerging competitors with new product substitutes. Natural environment. Events might include such natural disasters as flood, fire, or earthquake, and sustainable development. Political. Events might include newly elected government officials, new political agendas, and new legislation and regulations. Social. Events might include changing demographics, new food harvesting and preparation methods, and shifting family structures and work-life priorities. Technology. Events might include evolving electronic commerce, expanded availability of data, and reductions in infrastructure costs. Infrastructure. Events might include unexpected repair costs or equipment incapable of supporting production demand. Personnel. Events might include an increase in the number of on-the-job accidents, increased human error, or propensity for fraudulent behavior. Process. Events might include product quality deficiencies, unexpected downtime, or service delays. Technology. Events might include the inability to maintain adequate uptime, to handle increased volumes, to deliver requisite data integrity, or to incorporate needed system modifications. Organizations may identify hundreds of different events. It is often helpful to group these events into categories for management. This slide shows you categories of events identified by COSO. COSO provides a summary of the most important parts of this event identification. Pause the video and have a look. Risk assessment is the next element of the risk management process. Inherent risk is the risk to an entity in the absence of any actions management might take to alter either the risk's likelihood or its consequence. It is sometimes called existing risk. It has been called without condition risks in earlier courses. Residual risk is the risk that remains after management responds to the risk. This has also been called improved risk or with condition risk. COSO provides a summary of the most important parts of the risk assessment element. Pause the video and have a look. Risk control is the next element of the risk management process. The four categories of risk response identified by COSO are avoidance, where action is taken to exit the activities giving rise to risk. Risk avoidance may involve exiting a product line, declining expansion to a new geographical market, or selling a division. Reduction is where action is taken to reduce the risk likelihood or consequence, or both. This may involve any of a myriad of everyday business decisions. Sharing is where action is taken to reduce risk likelihood or impact by transferring or otherwise sharing a portion of the risk. Common risk-sharing techniques include purchasing insurance products, pooling risks, engaging in hedging transactions, or outsourcing an activity. Acceptance is where no action is taken to affect the likelihood or consequence of a risk. Examples of the first two follow. Avoidance. A not-for-profit organization identified and assessed risks of providing direct medical services to its members and decided not to accept the associated risks. It decided instead to provide a referral service. Reduction. A stock clearing corporation identified and assessed the risk of its systems not being available for more than 3 hours and concluded that it would not accept the impact of such an occurrence. The company invested in technology with enhanced self-detecting failure and backup systems to reduce the likelihood of system unavailability. Examples of the last two risk responses follow. Sharing. A university identified and assessed the risk associated with managing its student dorms and concluded that it did not have the requisite in-house capabilities to effectively manage large residential properties. The university outsourced the dorm management to a property management company, better able to reduce the impact and likelihood of property-related risks. Acceptance. A government agency identified and assessed the risks of fire to its infrastructure across diverse geographical regions and assessed the cost of sharing the impact of its risk through insurance coverage. It concluded that the incremental cost of insurance and related deductibles exceeded the likely cost of replacement and decided to accept this risk. This element includes evaluating different risk responses to find the best one. The existing risk is analyzed, and then the risk is re-estimated with a risk response in place to obtain a residual risk. If that residual risk is within the organization's risk tolerances, the risk response that produces it is a feasible solution to the risk problem. COSO says inherent risks are analyzed and responses are evaluated with the intent of achieving a residual risk level aligned with the organization's risk tolerances. In earlier classes, you learned this as a without and with comparison of risks, with judgment regarding the tolerability of the residual risk. The best alternative means of reducing the risk is chosen based on criteria. With risk-based decision-making, risk reduction is the only criterion. In risk-informed decision-making, risk reduction is one of several decision criteria. And in risk-naive decision-making, risk reduction is not even considered as a decision criterion. COSO provides a risk response summary. Have a look. Control activities refer to the activities required to implement a risk response. COSO describes this element as follows. Control activities are the policies and procedures that help ensure that management's risk responses are carried out. Control activities occur throughout the organization at all levels and in all functions. They include a range of activities as diverse as approvals, authorizations, verifications, reconciliations, reviews of operating performance, security of assets, and segregation of duties. COSO provides a control activities summary. Have a look here. The penultimate element is information and communication. Pertinent information is identified, captured, and communicated in a form and time frame that enable people to carry out their responsibilities. Effective communication also occurs, flowing down, across, and up the organization. Information quality is important in risk management. Here are 5 things to consider. Is the content appropriate? Is it at the right level of detail? Is the information timely? Is it there when needed? Is the information current? Is it the latest available? Is the information accurate? Are the data correct? Is the information accessible? Is it easy to obtain by those who need it? With internal communication, management provides specific and directed communication that addresses behavioral expectations and the responsibilities of personnel. In external communication, communication with stakeholders, regulators, financial analysts, and other external parties provides information relevant to their needs so they can readily understand the circumstances and risks the organization faces. The COSO Information and Communication Summary is shown here. Monitoring is the final risk management process element. COSO describes monitoring as follows. Enterprise risk management is monitored, a process that assesses the presence and functioning of its components over time. This is accomplished through ongoing monitoring activities, through separate evaluations, or a combination of the two. The COSO monitoring summary is shown here.